Welcome to SofaTalks and meet the team. I hope that wasn't too much of a dramatic entrance for us.
Hello.
It's a celebration. 10 years, who can believe it? I can't. I've got more grey hair than I've ever had before. I do blame who can join us later. So let me introduce you to who I've got on screen with you. I have Jamie, who's a supervisor and for the frontline and caseworker. We've got Monique, who is cultural engagement, and we've got Angela, who helps and supports with the groups as a team leader. So welcome, and there's a lot been going on in the past year, Jamie. So Jamie joined us when he was a volunteer. Just before lockdown. And then suddenly it was like, Jamie, do you want a job?
Yeah.
So how's it been for the past year for you?
Busy. So I started volunteering when I was 19, just before I turned 20. And I began volunteering at the organisation because I thought this was something that I wanted to get into, and I wanted to know whether this was something I wanted to go forwards with career-wise. And it was, I always say, it was meant to be my stepping stone. It was meant to be the place where I came along to get experience and a feeling of the type of field that this is, and it actually became the job. And it's happened so quickly. As Lorna said, I went from a volunteer to part-time, then full-time, and now supervising the frontline. So in terms of my personal development, it's been amazing, but also to witness the organisation's development over the last year and however many months has also been incredible. Let alone what you've seen, Lorna, over the last 10 years of the organisation and its development.
Yeah, when I remember us being, in fact, I've got some pictures I'm going to just flash up on the screen. When we first started in 2011, and we just had 2 rooms in South Street Arts, and it was like the South Street Theatre in South Street. And I'm seeing if I can find my picture. There it is. Let's see if what this looks like. And that's where we were with our little banner out the front.
It's so strange seeing the old branding. It feels alien to me. I'm like, what is that branding?
Oi, you do know that I'm the main graphic designer.
It's lovely. It's lovely branding. It's just not where we are now.
No, we have gone and kept moving, and that's. I'm hoping that's what a lot of people see with us, and they see a lot of movement. That we keep evolving and we keep changing. We take the opportunities to make sure that we're always representing the community in a lot of ways. So when we started, Jamie, we were all volunteers, every single one of us, and we would not have SupportU without them.
No.
The backbone of SupportU is our volunteer base, and of course, who are the volunteers but the community? And it's a bit emotional for me. 10 years. So having this chat is quite a milestone for me. Who knew that? Well, I always hoped it would always be here, and I always knew that wanted to make sure that we evolved. And I don't want to ever be that founder that gets stuck in their ways and you must do it this way because that's how we have always done it. No, because if I believe in fluidity, not just in our sexuality and our gender, but we should be fluid in our approach to the charity as well. And so with that in mind, I mean, when you started, Jamie, you were helping with the groups. So we knew that we had funding from the groups. We had money that came in from other areas. But now you're being funded by what?
Yeah, so being funded by the Police, Crime and Commissioners. So I've got my little badge over here. Really, really huge moment for the organisation and also for me in terms of my personal development. I came here as a volunteer and now I'm going to be gaining a qualification in domestic abuse and sexual violence, which, is absolutely insane. And just knowing how much support we can provide as a service to so many people in need within our community is incredible. So huge milestone for the organisation. And it couldn't be more timely that it was on the 10th year of the organisation. So yeah, really, really, really looking forward to gaining that experience and that training, and most importantly, providing it in direct support to those in need.
And I think even the past year, we've had lockdown, and everyone talks about mental health. It's the main topic of everywhere I go, and I make sure that we're representative in the right places. But you're also starting to do that too, and starting to make sure that we're represented in certain sectors, especially with domestic abuse at the moment, aren't you? You've joined a couple of forums now to make sure that LGBT support is at the top. And I've watched you, Jamie. You're doing really well. I've watched you making sure that they're changing their ways and making sure things are going to be added in about gender identity. And I didn't ask you to do that. You just
no.
and
well,
it's like
it's to be honest, it's an absolute honor to be able to have a voice, and to be able to share my personal experiences as well as my close people in my life, their experiences, and to make sure that there is social equality and diversity is being represented throughout local councils and through Thames Valley Police and other local authorities. So, you know, I do scrutinise. I don't go along to be pleasing people. I go along to make sure that I'm, you know, pulling things up, you know, so I'm making sure that data is being collected in the correct way so that we can actually monitor. Because, for instance, something that I hear quite often is, you know, we know domestic abuse and sexual violence is really, really high for people that identify as LGBT+, but we don't seem to have them reaching out for support. So it's my role to go along to these panels and these forums and to basically tell them why. And when I see that they're not collecting data on these intersectionalities, I'm like, maybe that's your reason. But also, you know, there's many other reasons, such as improving people's feelings around the police and local authorities and making sure, you know, people feel able to reach out to these people and these services because they are here to be used and utilized. But we need to make sure that people feel safe and accommodated for, because I think that's a huge issue. But it's something that I'm working on. And I also know Monique is also putting a lot of hard work into this area, but with a different part of our lovely community, which is obviously queer people of colour and refugees and asylum seekers, which is so vitally important.
So actually that will help bring Monique in.
Hello. Hello.
So Monique, how's it going with your project? The last time we saw you on screen, you were interviewing some great people, and Gakan is still following us, and he still actually shares our content, which is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I've been so fortunate to meet such wonderful people and such amazing, you know, artists and activists in the LGBT plus kind of people of color community. So at the moment things are going pretty well. I wrapped up our initial research and just basically trying to get things going and just see how we can be more supportive to queer people of color and offer up more representation, raise awareness, like starting awareness campaigns, and just seeing how we can be more mindful and inclusive, all the time. I just think that's so wonderful of SupportU, because obviously we're here to support the whole LGBT plus community. But what I like about our organization is that we take the time to focus on individual groups within our larger community, so that everyone has the opportunity to feel heard, represented, supported and safe, instead of, just kind of obviously come one, come all, which is fantastic, but taking the time to support the individual groups within our community, the lesser represented groups as well. I think that's just fantastic. So
and what I love is that this was part of my vision. And to be fair, if I one of the things that I wanted to bring up was, what would I do differently if I had to start again? And I would definitely know, if I know what I know now, is make sure that I had that at the beginning. But of course I was just getting it up and running. I was a rabbit in the headlights. It's like, I got
And
this
of course,
concept and I think we need to do something, and it's like, okay, here we are. Now what do I do?
and you know, you don't always have the resources and the time and the expertise to kind of start off with everything. You know, you've got to start off with what you know or what you've got the resources for, and then over time, as you get more resources and volunteers and things like that, expand. And I think people appreciate that a lot more than you trying to run around and make sure everyone is okay at the very beginning.
I
So I
think
think
one of
it's
the
naturally
things
evolved wonderfully.
I think one of the things I've always done, and I did it with Reading Pride, and I do it with SupportU, and
Hmm.
it was making sure, because when I did Reading Pride, when I was the chair back then, there was no representation for LGBT people. There was no
Hmm.
singular person going to these meetings or any type of meeting
Hmm.
that represented LGBT community. And I was like, well, it looks like I've got to step up then. Somebody's got
Yeah.
to step up, and that's what I'm like. And unfortunately, I don't always have the tools, but but I learn them, and I'm learning them, and now we're getting there. And
Hmm.
so you've got Jamie, you've got domestic abuse coming forward, you've got QPOC coming forward,
Yeah.
and we've always supported the trans community, and we've always looked after, the older age group as well, and so on and so forth. I mean, there is so much we can do. The LGBT plus community is huge. If you
Hmm.
tried,
Hmm.
and we will get there over the years, we will get there, and we'll start building in disabilities and
Hmm.
all of that sort of thing to make sure that they can have their space too.
That will
And
naturally happen,
heard.
won't it? Over
I hope so.
time, it will just
Over time.
expand and grow and evolve. And I think what's another wonderful thing about Support You, that it's not just about supporting and representing, these lesser represented, members of our community, but it's about getting them involved and having them help us run the services and
Hmm.
decide what we're going to do. So it's helping us shape the organization. As well as being a part of it, as well as being supported by it. And it's just kind of like a whole community involvement kind of thing. I just think it's wonderful as well.
Yeah, thank you. One of Alyssa, who is one of our trustees, came along as a frontline support when we called it frontline, and we now call the frontline caseworkers. That's how much we've evolved. um, she, I'm just reading through what she was saying, and she was saying, because she can't make it online today, but she says it's been a great place for her journey as a trans woman, from initially attending the trans group, to taking it over and running it for a long time, and being able to communicate her needs and the needs of the trans community to them over time and feel heard, and able to provide different services to people starting to explore their gender journey, through to expand support to non-binary and trans masculine people. And that's one of the things that we find quite a lot. There's a big voice and big sounds coming from the trans women community. They seem to be the ones that right at the front, but trans masculine tends and non-binary seems to be struggling to get their voices heard. And I'd like us all to, but luckily we all recognise that, and I get really, I don't know about you guys, but I get really, oh God, I genderised. Sorry.
We
It's
all
so
do
hard.
it. It's a
Yeah,
nightmare.
exactly. um, we try really hard to make sure that we listen to everybody, no matter where they are on their journey, no matter where they are at the beginning, middle, end, and change their pronouns. I mean, it does make our job hard, but it's not our journey, and you tell us, isn't it? And I think that's what's nice about what we do and have been doing over the last 10 years, is watching somebody grow. And I think the best person that can come up with that has to be our Angela. And it's Angela's turn to tell us about her growth from starting with us. So, Angela, tell the audience your journey with us.
Well, also the photograph that Lorna just showed of South Street. That's where I started 9 years ago, and I'd also just moved to Reading, so I was very much alone. Didn't know anybody, and coming out at the same time is extremely hard. and I got given the name of a group, this group, this charity that just started up in South Street. So I, excuse me,
Bless you.
I went along to South Street and I had a chat with everybody there, including Andrew's lovely mum, Mandy, who was my first caseworker, and they got me through. Lorna and Mandy got me through the initial period of coming out, and so I've and the last 9 years I've shared my journey with them. You know, they've supported me. You know, I've supported them. I went to our trans, which was great. People in different stages of their journey. People, you know, just coming out. People on hormones. People have had surgery, whatever. And then eventually, I myself came to that point in my life, and the charity couldn't have done more to help me and support me on that when it was needed. So I give my time back to the charity now in running our trans, because it's for the new people, it's for the people who maybe haven't got a voice, you know, who are afraid of coming out. You know, that's what we're there for. We're there to support, no matter where it is on the spectrum. But obviously I have a vested interest in my community, so I will focus on that. But I've also, over my time, wanted to build bridges within the community and not just mine. So everything else on the spectrum, because there is a gulf, and I want to build bridges on that. And I don't know if I've succeeded or not, but you know,
Well, I know you're very much loved, Angela. Everyone out, you know, let's outside of our bubble support you. You are always welcome, and everyone speaks highly of you when they ask about you. So you've made an impact yourself.
Absolutely. And Angela, do you mind if I ask, you know, if we think back to the beginning of your journey with SupportU, how have if when we think back to that, so you know, right on at the beginning of your transition, do you think at that point you would have been able to ever think that one day in the future you would actually be going from a service user or a client at the organization to someone that is providing support to the community and being a really valued part of the team at the organization?
To be honest, Jamie, no. When I came out, it was very nerve-wracking, so I just needed the support. But you know, I think I reached a point where I felt I didn't need it anymore, and the best thing I could do to help myself was to help other people. You know, and you know, I've had others in the community call me a role model, and I'm not always comfortable with that, because you know, they're all the ladies I know are all fantastic in their own way, you know, and they're all different journeys. But yeah, I'm just a consistent person all along. Oh yes, Andrew just reminded me.
He's always in the background, isn't he? Always popping up in the background, but never in the front. Funny that.
No, he leaves everybody else to do it.
Yeah. So he's just chatted. He's just popped up on a chat, if anyone's wondering. So Angela, go on.
I've forgotten about. Was it how many years ago, Lorna?
I think we worked it out to be 5 years ago.
5 years ago, we had a photographer come round, and he was taking photographs of me, not just of me, but other volunteers too. So for anybody who's come into the front room at SupportU, not now unfortunately, because we took it down at the weekend, but there was a photograph up of me on the wall. So every time somebody came in, I used to point it out to him and say, look, I'm a star, you know. Well, you got to, haven't you?
Yes,
You got to.
you're our poster girl.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a really cool campaign. I did like those pictures. We need to do
Yeah,
another one, I think.
yeah. I mean, I've obviously changed very much since then. And publicly, I'm very gratified to support you after my surgery because I had a relapse and the charity got me home.
Oh, it looks like that Mark, our Mark trustee, is also watching from a distance. We ought to
Oh,
ask
is
him if
he?
he'd like to get online. I'll send him the link.
So, you know, that SupportU, one of the best things that ever happened to me in the last 10 years. It gave me the community to work to be part of, you know, and I don't consider myself alone anymore. I haven't for many years.
Good. And that's the main thing, isn't it, that we all want to achieve here, is knowing that you're not alone.
And can I just say to Jamie, who's now seemed to taking over the running of SupportU, doing a fantastic job. You do great with the youth group. I got to say, and from Lorna and myself, I say thank you because we were running that group for a bit, and we were just like, yeah, Lorna's nodding. So
There was
thank
times
you,
when you have to
Jamie.
put your hand up and go, it's not for me. I'm here to help, but
No,
honestly,
we can handle the adults, but children are like the youth are like, yeah, well done, Jamie. Well done for stepping up.
Thank you. That's very lovely of you, Angela, and I really appreciate that. And you know, I totally hear you. I think the youth group, you know, I've had the privilege of facilitating a few of our support groups, including CDTV, the youth group, and Gator Grey. And I find with the youth group, they are, you know, a lot of them remind me so much of myself, but in a very different way. They're very extrovert. Some of them are super introvert, but they're an amazing group. But yeah, they are very much strong characters. But it's such a lovely group to facilitate because, you know, there's times when it's difficult and they are facing some really horrible situations. But my favorite part of that group, and probably one of my favorite things about this service, is the fact that is the most welcoming group I have experienced. All of our groups are lovely, but that group, as soon as there's a new person there, they're talking about their WhatsApp chat, and it really is their chosen family. And you know, we hear and we see the difficulties that they can have at their school. I'm just going to plug Rainbow Flag Award training, which is behind Lorna. But we see and hear the awful situations that they can be subjected to. But knowing that they have that place, that 1 hour at the moment, which is online, normally about 4 hours every Tuesday evening, you know, they really do look forward to that, and that's their time to be themselves. And I'm just glad to be able to facilitate that along with such an amazing youth services team. Oren, Olive, and Maria. Maria's our safeguarding lead, and the other two are the youth facilitators. They are absolutely incredible, and they really do put the young people as a priority. You know, they will go out of their way to make sure that those kids are heard and that they are doing everything that they can to provide them with the best support that they have every right to. But yeah, thank you again, Angela. An amazing job you do with our trans.
Well, yes, I mean, our trans, I think, has had an evolution as well. When I first started going, it was very cliquey, and it wasn't performing the way it should do in terms of having new people in. Regulars would come in, and anybody new that came in just get frozen out, you know, and I wasn't happy with that. I actually stopped going because I didn't like the way that it was being shut out. So
I think with groups it can be quite difficult. I think no matter what group it is, when you're the newbie, it's really hard, and especially when you've got strong characters in a group, it can be really difficult to make sure you're heard. But one of the services that we provide at SupportU is, you know, with the caseworkers, if someone's new and is quite nervous about attending, the caseworkers will say, you know, if you'd like me to come along with you for your first time, and maybe even your second time, just to sort of make you feel that someone's there with you, and you've got support, so you're not alone. That's another service we provide. So that in itself just shows how much of a service we've developed in the last 10 years, because we're thinking about all areas now.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that's fantastic, because that's the way our trans was failing, because the person running it at the time didn't allow many trans allies in, you know, which, you know, is discrimination in itself. So
you know me, I believe in our network of support. So when some people wanted me to turn the trans group into a closed trans group only, and nobody else should be in there, including myself, I would like to add. They didn't want me to walk in the room, and I was like, that's not going to happen. But it was like, no, you've got partners, and they want to meet other trans people, and they would also like to meet other partners of trans people, you know, and get to have a connection. And so I wasn't going to, so I only allow one person, obviously, because I don't want the whole friendship turning up. But yeah, everyone's entitled to bring somebody along who can give them support.
That's wonderful. That's like another thing that I love about SupportU, because you know, you listen to the service users, listen to the clients, and change with, you know, with suggestions, and evolve, and be willing, be open. You know, you're open to do things a little bit differently if something isn't working, or you know, the people who are accessing the services aren't happy. So it's just the openness to change, and to be like, okay, well, maybe we'll try it this way, instead of just remaining fixed and rigid because, you know, you started the charity, so you're going to do it this way. I think that's great.
I think it's also a case of learning, isn't it, Lorna? Because we've learned loads of new stuff.
You and me. I mean, we're talking about the trans group here, aren't we, Angela? And we know it's evolved, but you're coming from a trans. Sorry, what's going on? Sorry, don't do that to me. Sorry, popped up chat and it threw me. I hate all that. It puts me off. It puts me off.
Sorry.
So Angela, I mean, people expect us to know everything off the bat like that, but when it comes to the trans group, where it's evolving and it's changing, and we're starting to bring in and accept non-binary people, or people on the spectrum, or just questioning it, we've got it wrong ourselves, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
And we had a learning curve. We had to go from trans binary, which is what it is, isn't it? If you think about the beginning, trans for us was very binary. Oh, you're going from male to female, or female to male, binary. And then suddenly we've got to start, even you and I had to then change our approach and learn new language in relating to make sure the non-binary people felt included.
Well, to me, to my case, I, and this is not, I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but I just didn't get trans guys at the time, you know, having been down that path. And I had to learn. And once I got to know a few trans guys, you know, they're the loveliest people, you know, and I realized I needed to learn. So I learned lessons from that kind of thing, that you learn and you evolve, because the community's changed and evolved generally over the last 10 years, not just us as an organization, but as around, you know, that, like, you know, there's more freedoms for our community in terms of the law, in terms of the way the police tend to view us, you know. So the freedoms that we have, you know, it's all through learning, you know, and understanding and education, you know. But the thing I've always loved is the difference in the groups. So the youth group is, well, without giving away numbers, it's a lot of female to male, isn't it, Jamie? You know, and whereas in our trans, it's always the other way around. It's always been that way. You know, so like, you've got trans guys in your group, haven't you, Jamie?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a very diverse group. I think all of our groups are very diverse, which is exactly what we want. I mean, hey, it's our slogan, diversity matters. But yeah, the group is it's a great group, and there's lots of young people who are very confident with their identities. There's also lots of people that are questioning their identities and exploring that, and that is the other great thing about that group. You know, when the young people are unsure on pronouns, we as a group will actually allow them to say, hey, you know, can you try out these different pronouns for me so that I can see whether it feels right, or can you try out this different name? So it's a really open group, and you know, because I think labels are problematic. You know, I find that I'm so on the fence about labels. They're great because they help us to learn things, but they're also really complex because they cause loads of questions, and sometimes they can contradict each other, and the list goes on. But the great thing about the group is the facilitators and I are very, very clear that, you know, whoever you are, you know, you are you before your identity. And that's the most important thing. You know, I have blue eyes, but when I was younger, I was really emotionally upset about being gay, but I didn't care about having blue eyes. So like the way that I look at it is like, being gay is just one characteristic of me, just like having blue eyes. So why did I care so much about that one thing, but not so much about that thing? So it's about giving the young people freedom to explore who they are, and to just remember that, you know, things in life are fluid and things might change, and that's okay. You know, we have time, there's no pressure and there's no rush.
No, I think even I found that over the last 10 years, going from, you know, I've changed in my sexuality over that period of time. You know, I've learned stuff. You know, so it's always been a learning curve. I think we're all still learning. You know, continue to learn. I think charity's willing to do it and evolve. I think that it's success. You know, as I said to you and Olive last week, you know, new generation coming in is great. Got you two in, you know, you're real go-getters. Not that Lorna and I aren't, but you know, it's a different. You guys have got a different perspective.
They bring a new energy, don't they, Angela?
They do.
I think that's what it is. They bring in a new energy that we need. And talking about bringing in new energy, yeah, he's waiting. He's waiting. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Okay, let's bring in Andrew. That's what I love about it.
At least I don't get paid. You know, I can say things that Jamie and Lorna can't.
Oh, trust me, Angela, I say exactly what I want.
I know and you do, Jamie,
you do. And I think that's what I like about me and Andrew, is the fact that we want to hear real feedback. And if you have to be, well, not insult us, you don't insult us, but you can be very forthright. And
if I've got something to say, you're both going to hear it.
I know that. I definitely know that. So don't worry.
No, I think it's amazing because we have not only an amazing community where we can have open conversations, but we have an amazing team. And without having the team that we do and not being able to have the open conversations and, you know, being able to have each other to rely on and lean on, we wouldn't be able to provide the services that we do to the community. You know, if we had a team that couldn't talk about things that they wanted to be changed within the service, then we wouldn't be reaching what the community needed. So I think, you know, one thing that this charity really can do is pride itself on the team, and the past teams as well, you know, and the future teams.
Yes. Well done, Jamie. It's like...
Haven't they helped to evolve the charity to get to this point now? So people like Nick and Kath, you know, have helped the charity to get to this point now. So it can only get better. And the fact, you know, that we're still there with a lot of other people, about charities have actually gone to the wall because we've continuously evolved. And I think that's down to yourself and Andrew as well, you know, that you're always thinking of new things and you're always taking ideas on board, you know, rather than sort of running it from on high. You both accept input.
And I think that comes from a place of Lorna and I don't know the answers to everything, as you said earlier.
No.
We're not the experts in every field. We all have our own specialisms, and we all have things that we contribute towards the organisation. Mine is not public speaking, so I'll just say that now. But at the same time, because we all have those different fields or different expertise or different perspectives as well, you know, that's what makes this organisation grow in the way that it does. It's because it's very organic in the way it thinks. And we're also very adaptive, just because we have to be, because of the community, but also just the people within it are, you said earlier about bringing new energy. New energy means a lot of different things to different people. And for me, that new energy comes from those different perspectives and those different thoughts that people have that I don't necessarily see. And you mentioned, Angela, earlier about like learning as you go. We all know internally the conversation that we've had about me learning about things. I will be honest, I didn't have any clue about the trans community at all before I joined SupportU. And not because I didn't want to or anything, I just didn't have any exposure to the trans world. And therefore I didn't know anything any better, if you like. And I've been on a real learning curve as part of that experience with yourself and others in the organisation that have helped me to shape that knowledge and build a better understanding. And in turn, I've been able to share some of my experiences with everyone in that organisation to try and to get everyone to have a perspective. Lorna and I definitely don't like to sit in the echelons. That's just not how we like to run the organisation and be in the organisation. And actually, I like the idea that yourself and Jamie and all the other volunteers all can access anyone in the organisation, share their thoughts, share their feelings, because that's what makes us who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, sorry, Lorna. If it surprised you to know, Andrew, that before I came out, I didn't think anything about the LGBT community at all. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it didn't factor in my life. And then suddenly one comes out and like, yeah, it's one of the biggest factors in my life. But also something like Jamie said, being trans is only a part of me. It's not all of me. You know, I've learned over the years to split it into my other lives. You know, it's like we've all got different interests outside. Like Lorna's got a trumpet, you know, that she used to.
I haven't played my trumpet. What do you think I am? Sonia from EastEnders.
That's literally what I was about to say. Sonia from EastEnders.
But you have done, Lorna. You know, that's the thing. But you've got different interests. We all got different interests outside of the community. We all like things, you know. That's where we are. That's human beings. Mm-hmm. You know.
I think I think especially in the last couple of years, Andrew has really helped me a lot in making sure that I start thinking a lot more strategically for the organisation, and I think that's where you're seeing the growth now. So I'm growing too, in a different way. Yeah, I'm inclusive and stuff, but I don't always understand the background to it, which is why we need someone like Monique. Unfortunately, she's frozen, which is why I've taken her away, and hopefully she'll come back from wherever she's gone. Hopefully she'll come back. But and it's my next journey is understanding QPOC, understanding people of colour, understanding where they're coming from, and the way I work. Here she comes. Here she comes. Let's get her back.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, I didn't realise I was frozen. Sorry. I was sitting frozen.
So, what I've been finding, when I try to explain the LGBT community to people that aren't LGBT, it makes sense that I will give them some pointers about why and who we are. But I'm not black either, and I'm not trans, so I have to learn and understand backgrounds and cultures and differences to bring that forward now. And hopefully with the work Monique's now going to move forward with, we'll now have another layer of understanding about cultures and differences. And culture to me is everyone's different in every single household. Mm-hmm. None of us have been brought up in the same type of household. So how we wash the dishes, it will be different from one person to the next because of the culture that you met, you know, that
or how we play the trumpet.
I think Lorna should play us out.
I'm just fixated on this trumpet now.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean,
the one with
though.
the voice.
Yeah, well, hardly today, but I know what you mean, Lorna. Like when I first came into the team and you know started working for SupportU, I remember I just kept saying to random people, like, it's my dream job, it's my dream job. It literally does feel like my dream job, and it's just I just think it's so fantastic that you are even having the conversation, you know, about supporting LGBT plus people of color, and you know representing them, and acknowledging the, you know, the problems they may dealing with the whole intersectionality of their race, of our race and our sexuality or our gender expression, and just being willing to have, you know, have a safe space and to provide somewhere safe for people to navigate their way through that, and just wanting to, you know, to support people as much as you possibly can, so much as we possibly can. I think that's fantastic, and just really excited about all the things, all the projects, and all the activities and the campaigns that we're going to run concerning LGBT plus people of color. But it's been fantastic so far. Like, as I said, with the research and just hearing what the community have to say, and just knowing that we're having the right conversations and we're taking the right first steps. You know, even before we started the research, we were making conscious efforts to diversify our social media posts, for instance, and just make sure that we're highlighting LGBT plus people of color as much as we are highlighting people of other ethnicities and things like that. And yeah, just being willing to have those conversations, because not many people want to even talk about, you know, the lack of representation for certain members of our community. So I think it's brave.
Even
and
your
wonderful.
research, Andrew, you know, Andrew and I had to sit back and go, we've got to take this criticism, you know, of the organisation and own it. And that's what we're going to do. Oh, Angela was upside down.
I don't know what's going on. I'm having so many technical difficulties. I'm sitting here with my phone up against a bag of frozen peas because it's overheating, and I'm just like, dude.
I did wonder what was going on. I just thought you were just doing your normal posing. But
we definitely have all of the tech, you know, all the tech there, right? Frozen pea stands. I mean,
I
just
have
like casually walk over to the freezer.
I have a question for you and Andrew, Lorna.
Oh.
So obviously it's 10 years since you both founded the organisation, and I suppose one of the biggest questions is, what did you envision for our community when you set up this organisation, and do you feel that you've achieved this?
Oh, good question.
Oh, that's a big question. That's a loaded question, Jamie. I think I'll start with I'll say honestly that when we started the organisation, we were talking like helping 100 people a year is what we were talking about, right? We were saying, you know, there were challenges made by organisations that are part of our public service, if you like, that challenged myself and Lorna's perception on what we thought we wanted. So we wanted to help 100 people a year. We wanted to have a building that people could come to and have a safe space and talk and discuss and all those sort of things. We didn't really understand at the time what the need was fully when we first started talking about it, because we were looking at like survey data, which is fine, but it doesn't really give you that feeling of what people really need. So we were basing it on that, and there was a need for that property, if you like, for people to go to. And the 100 people was a target we aimed at just because of the numbers we thought we would have. And the resistance we got back from authorized figures, like saying things like, well, why would you need a gay service in Reading? Because there are no gays in Reading. Like, and that literally was something that come out of their mouths. And we were like stunned into silence. And then you go back and rethink your plan, and you go, and that's the point where a lot of organizations say, is it worth doing? Or are we on the wrong track, right? And so myself and Lorna, being as stubborn as we are, decided, no, we're going to push it through because we believe there is a real need here. And so we went through that process to try and help initially. Little did we realize how quickly it would explode. I'm not joking you. People always throw figures out there to support you, but genuinely, when we say we deal with 4,500 queries a year, It's genuinely that number, and it is calls, emails, chats, texts, everything that comes in. We have a whole variety of different streams, but I never honestly thought it would be as big as it is now. I'll be honest and frank. That was never where we thought it would be.
I can honestly say when I signed up as a volunteer for this organisation, I thought I was going to be supporting a few people because I was there with the local authorities thinking that there's only a handful of queers in the Thames Valley. And oh my God, when I see my caseload going like this all the time, and obviously the other caseworkers at the organisation, it is like, it's overwhelming. It's a sad thing. Sometimes it can be a beautiful thing, you know. So it's really mixed feelings because not all of the cases are, you know, mental ill health related. For some people, it might just be that they want to be more connected to the community, or that they just want to know more about the community. So, you know, it is a mix of inquiries we get. But I never, ever thought that I would be as busy as I am with this organisation, and I think that needs to be shouted about a lot more. You know, we do support so many people,
and you've even started being able to pass your cases on to somebody else, so that gives you bandwidth, and you're still getting busy, you know. So, and it's thanks to people like yourself, Olive, Rosie,
Chris,
Joe, and Chris. Who just continued to support the whole community through lockdown, haven't gone anywhere. And I think this is where people forget that we weren't the experts, and we've been learning it. And because we didn't know we needed to learn about trauma when we first started SupportU. We didn't know we had to really dig deep about mental health.
Sexual violence, domestic abuse,
drugs, alcohol, you know, at least have an understanding of it. Okay, we're not experts in it, but we have an understanding about it, and we can make sure that people get given the right support they need where they need it. We always knew that we needed a counselling service, and that's still growing. And that because mental health is really important to our community. So it's shocked. I think that's where we were naive. Just the type of thing we needed to have actually delivered. So when people want to come and ask us about what we, you know, the delivery side, we've got someone's come on chat. Adam, we all know Adam. Good old hello, Adam.
Yay!
He's asked the question actually: is there anything up and coming on LGBT plus disabilities with disabilities? We can say it's not right now, because unfortunately we're now at a stage where we've got too big to be able to go, right, let's start a group, let's start this, let's start that. We were very reactionary, but now we have to plan it. But it will be on our plan it will be something that we'll tackle.
And that's actually really good feedback, Adam, so thank you for that, because that's not something that I had even thought about at the strategic level from a trustee perspective. So that's really good feedback. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think, but one of the things that we have highlighted in our own organisation is something to look at is autism. And autism spectrum is another area where it's very misunderstood, and how it fits in with the LGBT plus community, which it does when we know that 50% of trans people are autistic. And there's no research on it, no reasons why that there's a higher percentage of people that are autistic and trans, but that's something I'd like us to work with next. And we do work with Autistic Pride and other autistic organisations that support us when we get to really difficult, conversations with people who are autistic.
And so speaking about like the future, like Adam was just asking, you know, about LGBT plus people with disabilities, and obviously that's something that we're going to branch out into sometime in the future. What else is coming up kind of in the future? Is there anything that you can speak on that we've got to look forward to?
Our next stage is at some point this year, and it will come out sometime this year, we will want to put a survey out to find out or get some feedback on trans issues. What do you need from us, from the trans community, that we're missing? What type of work should we now be working on that would really support the trans community? We've got the groups, we've got a general knowledge on, and we can give support with GP support, and where to find the nice ones. But what's missing, what's lacking in our community that you'd like us to work on and be able to deliver, say, in a year or two's time, if it's a big project, depends on what you're asking. If you just want to improve on our group, we can probably do that quite quick. But if it's a lot more detailed and a bit more drilled down, let's have those conversations. And of course, QPOC is going to be amazing because you're going to make sure that we have something for ongoing, and it's always going to be our next bit.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at the moment. That's the immediate need. And then eventually we just try and expand to outside areas from Reading. I think that's important now. That's the next.
Lorna,
because everybody knows that we obviously support everyone within Thames Valley area, but actually getting out to those places and making sure that people are aware of SupportU and aware of our services.
I mean, we talk about supporting the Thames Valley, but actually, as long as you can get to Reading, so it is on my how to build. I've got to build that up. I've got to work out how I can make that happen in different areas.
Maybe having pop-up events.
I think Angela wants to say.
Yeah, I'm good. So if I go, I've got something else on at 8.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Was it Emmerdale?
Just want to say, to support you, happy birthday.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank
you for the
Here's to the next 10.
Thank you for being a constant support for us. Have a good evening.
Andrew, I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So, Lorna, another question I've got for you is what has been, and I'm sure you're going to struggle with this one because I'm sure there's loads of things to come up with, but what would you say is one of your highlights of the last 10 years of supporting this organisation?
Highlight? Have I got one? Because it's so many, and I don't know where to pinpoint one. Oh, meeting Andrew? No, that can't be.
We said highlight.
That's the highlight. Oh my word!
How about when you both got invited to meet the Queen for the work you've done with this organisation?
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Going to Buckingham Palace and actually meeting the Queen, and her stood in front of me, looking me up and down, and going, "Ew." Hey, who are you?
And running with the Olympic torch. I mean,
me and Andrew both got that. Yeah, that was a pretty big highlight as well. And Pride of Reading. We've both got the Pride of Reading awards between us.
Oh, wow.
We've both each got one.
It's basically a game of if Lorna gets it, Andrew can't get it.
Oh, that was funny when we got the Olympic torch. You heard it first.
I did, yeah.
Oh, no, I knew about it. I knew I was being put forward, but I couldn't talk about it just yet. And then you got nominated, and I was like, "You better not get Reading."
And I got a ticket in the post.
You better not get London. Better not get London. That was it.
Yeah.
And where did you get?
I got Cornwall. So I actually was all right. I love that. I got to go down, take Lorna down. Yeah, we had a lovely trip. Ended up going to Butlins afterwards, which was really interesting.
I want to know more about this, but I don't feel it's appropriate here for some reason.
Oh no, it's not like that. Literally, we were celebrities everywhere we went. It was great. That was fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big honour. You're right, Jamie. It was a very big honour because obviously when I did mine, I'm the first person to receive the torch because it had come from Bracknell. So it had gone along the A329M, met at Palmer Park, and I was there, stood there waiting to receive it to the next bit. So my torch was lit by the original lantern that came from Greece.
Wow.
And then I started it off in Reading. And so that was pretty cool.
There is an amazing video of me screaming, "Lorna!" over again as she runs past. If you want to watch that on our YouTube channel.
Lorna! Yeah.
Because we put it in slow-mo and you've just got me saying that over the top of her. That's basically what it is. Yeah.
But obviously, I think the highlight right now is the fact that, do you remember a couple of years ago? In fact, it was pre pre-lockdown, so it has to be at least 2 years ago now, where we did that massive shout out, Andrew, and we were really on our knees, and we literally had to find £10,000, and the community got behind us. And I said, look, if we don't find £10,000, and I knew we were on a cuff of like, we were on a cuff. It's like, it's only 3 months. That's all we need is 3 months, because we're gonna just, it's there, you know. And the community came together, and they literally raised money and raised £12,000. It's like that got us out of the, and then everything started to line up as I hoped it would, and because I knew it was there waiting in the wings, and I just like, please don't collapse now, I'm nearly there.
And I think that says a lot about the service in itself, the fact that the community got behind us at a time that we needed, and they were there to support us, to support them. You know, if we didn't provide an elite service, I'm gonna actually say that, then they wouldn't support us. So it just shows how much support that is needed.
I will say this service hasn't come from nowhere, right? There is a lot of hard work, sweat and tears from a whole load of people. I couldn't name them all because we would literally be here for the whole hour. But I will say, like, through the years, people like Claire, Lyndon, who have been there, who have really made sure that this organization grows in its own way and tries to get us there. Because without them, it wouldn't exist. Right. It's not me and Lorna. This is a very much group episode. And so I'll be perfectly frank, myself and Lorna are just people that happen to be there to start the organization and steer it. But really, it's the volunteers that have helped us through the years, and now paid staff, but volunteers have really made sure that is delivered. And without them, it wouldn't be here. It just wouldn't.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And it's what I always say, that it's still the backbone. I know we're getting paid staff members now, which is, the first time in its history that we've had that in the past year. But the backbone is still the volunteers, and it always will be. And the community getting behind us like that just did overwhelm us. And I think it's great that we've almost ended this on thanking them and the people that helped get us started. And for the future, because we're going to always need the volunteers to come forward to support where we need it. And if anyone's out there that's listening and has a niche thing that they think they could bring to the table and help us out that we haven't thought of, always listening. It might be something like, it might be training us on something. A specialist in.
Well, that is interestingly how we got with Monique, right? That's exactly where it came from, right? Monique, and one of the things that we didn't share is that Monique started was looking for a different role, actually. And as we came through that process, and we listened to Monique's story and her experience, and talking through what she wanted to do and where she wanted to see, that was something that really opened our eyes, and that was what was the trigger for us to say, oh, actually, this is an area we really need to focus on because we haven't scoped it, right? And so, Monique, I don't know if you want to share how your experience of what that was for you, because all people that are out there, that's important to them.
That was fantastic, because it kind of mimicked what we're trying to do now, just to make sure that people of color, LGBT plus people of color, feel supported and heard, and represented. And at that moment, I myself felt heard. You recognize that I had a passion for LGBTQ plus people of color kind of work, and you allowed me to create my own kind of job role, basically, and to put that work in and to start delving into supporting the people of color. And I think that at that moment in time, I was just, as I said, I was saying it was my dream job, just to be able to interview for one role, but express how passionate I am about something else. And for you to say, do you know what? We can see how passionate you are about this. Also, it's very much needed. We recognize that ourselves. Take it and run with it. And I just thought that was fantastic.
Well, we've come to the end of our session. That went quicker than you think.
Oh my God, that's so quick. It's so quick. No.
So thank you everyone for joining us. I hope everyone found that interesting about our organisation, and get in touch if you need us. Always online. and I'm just finding the website address so that I can put you.
Thank you so much, Lorna and Andrew. Thank you for, 10 years ago, having a dream and, recognizing the need for certain services and having, just being brave enough to start it and having the energy
100%. I want to
start
echo
it,
that.
and for steering this ship as we continue.
And providing, a dedicated service to our community, and not only providing the service, but also a home for the employees and the volunteers, because this is a place equally for us, just as it is for our wider community and our service users. So happy 10th anniversary.
Happy 10th anniversary.
And so Laura's going to play us
Happy
out with the trumpet now.
So we'll just say goodbye and end and leave.
God.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, see you later. Bye-bye.